You didn't want to say race. Tell me that that's not race.
In-group preference. It's the
So
same
they're
as
not talking about a race when it says whites only?
Yes, because it's not about the skin color. It's not about the nationality. It's about the ideas.
Wait, you're locked into a cell, and they're saying, I don't want to be locked in with this darkie. What are they implying?
They're implying that they don't want to be in a cell with a black person.
Oh God, bro. This is bad. So they don't want to be in there with a black person.
Well okay, that's fine. That's fine. No.
Are they? Is that so? You've already admitted because they're black, they don't want to be.
Because if a black Crip was in jail and he said, "I don't want to be in jail. I don't want to be in a cell with a black blood," I wouldn't. What would I call that?
That would be something else because it's not because of their race. That wouldn't be because of it. So now you see how labels help us out. What you're doing is wanting to help us
out at all.
Yes, they are. Because now, I was actually
because now we have infinite.
Hold on, JS. You're talking to somebody who's closer to the subject matter to law enforcement than you. So when I did work corrections
I've had a lot of run-ins with law enforcement.
I worked in law enforcement for a long time. So when we segregate people and we have to do things like STG status, that's the security threat group. That's what that acronym means. And we have to look at tattoos and everything like that. And we have to put race assigned by race because racists hate each other. And when we do this, this causes a threat. When you say things like that are generalized, like, oh, you're stronger in groups, that doesn't really reconcile my argument. That's a universal thing. I can't even concede that, which really doesn't concede with the argument. If you have a black blood in a black Crip, of course, that's just gang affiliation. That's not race at all. Yeah, this is dancing around the whole bush the whole time.
You're looking at this through a window of a world where this idea has been perpetuated. So you're looking at everything under a lens of racism is real, and that's why all these things are happening. But if you go back to the roots, we didn't used to have these race forms. We didn't even have a concept of racism until the 1900s in America.
So JS.
And it was based off of a nonsensical thing. That's what I made the argument about Richard Pratt for. This guy's saying segregation is racist. Meanwhile, kill the Indian, save the man. That's not racist. But segregation
you're using token statements by people who may not even have a concise definition of what is. Here's my example.
This idea comes from race hustlers, and it comes from civil rights Marxist ideology.
People can abuse the word racist and then use it because black supremacy does exist, meaning they're outwardly saying that blacks can't be racist at all, which is a lever of.
Why are you going to use the words?
Like people could use any sort of how do you say, like attribute? Is that what I'm looking for? To turn someone against each other, you could divide people using anything. You could divide people by, straights versus the gays, the cisgenders versus the trans, the blacks versus the whites, minorities versus whites, Republicans versus Democrats, Steelers fans versus Packers fans. Like, the blonde-haired people versus the brunette people, gingers versus everyone else. Like, you could divide people based on anything, but that doesn't mean that skin color isn't one of them. Like, skin color definitely is one of the ways that people could divide people with.
When they say this, which is complete bullshit.
Why are you going to talk like the enemy and use the words of the enemy? You're a Christian, this is. You're a Christian, this is a spiritual battle. It's not a physical battle. So why are you going to talk like the enemy?
So
using words like racism.
I'm not talking like the enemy. I'm pointing out the enemies.
So JS, he says this thing where it's like, oh, they're using race to divide people. Don't fall for it. And listen, yes, especially like people in charge, they are using race to divide people. That is true. That doesn't mean, though, that racism doesn't exist, though. Yes, we shouldn't fall for their attempts to divide us. But if it wasn't about race, it would be about something else, the rich versus the poor or something like that, They're always going to divide us using some method, but race is one of them. Race is one of them. That's just a fact, okay?
Own contradictions. When I call a duck and say if it quacks like a duck and this and that, if you see somebody walk into a church and they don't acclimate to the church foundation, you're going to say that's a sinner. Let's say that we took your prescription.
No, you're pushing the idea.
Hold on real quick. Let's say if we took identifiers and descriptors off of everything, we wouldn't know what a sinner is, because guess what happens? Even if we have an action, we can't label it anymore. Do you see how muddy this?
I mean, if you want, I could look at your opening, JS. I honestly don't think it's going to change my mind much, but I'll do it, because who knows? Maybe it will. But before I do that, thank you very much, Abel. I don't know if you meant to send this twice, because you sent this earlier. Did you listen to Andrew versus Rob? I feel Rob won that one. Yeah, I answered your other one earlier, so I don't know if this is a mistake or not, but if it's a mistake, well, sorry. It sent me another $5 of your dollars, but I appreciate it, brother. Thank you.
Recognized for his UFC fight reviews, spot on character and
racism or racist. All right. I'm excited, ladies and gentlemen. Arguing against racism and the idea of racists with black guys is one of my favorite debates. Tonight's debate is basically a debate about words. Words have power, and some should be removed from our lexicon. And my position is racism or racist is one of those words. It represents an idea that doesn't exist outside of the minds of people who believe in it. In this debate, I will prove that there is no consistent definition of racism, and that it is an arbitrary and subjective metric that constantly changes from person to person or place to place. Another important word we need to understand in this debate is hate and forms of hate. So let's start there. I will be posing a typology for hate as presented by Ingrid Varel-Farran in his paper titled Hate Towards a Four-Type Model. Farran argues for 4 types of hate in this model, these being normative, ideological, retributive, and malicious. I agree with this model and will be focusing on the ideological form for the sake of this debate. Here's the scenario to explain this type of hate in relation to so-called racism. Bob says he hates black people because he believes they are all criminals. Bob's focus of hate here is indeterminate. It is not individual-based, but rather group-based. Bob's focus of hate here, or Bob's hate has been formed by in-group socialization or ideas he has learned through family, friends, coworkers, neighbors, etc. Bob has read studies and heard talking points and seen news articles and reports supporting his ideas, but may or may not have ever personally known or even met a black person. Bob has developed a prejudice that he projects onto the target of his hate. This scenario would typically be called racism by those who have fallen prey to leftist ideology rather than logic. Bob doesn't actually hate a race, he hates crime. So why don't we call this criminalism? I can't even say it, criminalism. If this sounds dumb to you, just know that it's just as dumb as thinking racism is a form of hate. Now I will demonstrate more.
Well, like I said, like even if it's like, well, I hate black people because they're all a bunch of criminals, you're still using their skin color as that identifier. You choose anything. You can notice, hey, I notice a lot of people that steal. They're poor people, so I hate poor people. You could say that instead, but instead you're like, no, I don't. It's black people. It's just blacks. And then when you go, oh, yeah, but look at these whites stealing, and then they're like, no, yeah, but listen, blacks though. You know, you're still choosing that identifier, the skin color, to say that you don't like it. So that's the thing. That's where it's like, well, no, racism does exist. You're choosing the skin color as to be the identifier instead of other qualities or attributes.
More in depth why race or racism cannot be consistently defined or held as some sort of belief or ism, much less defended as a form of hate. Race could be based on skin color, ethnicity, nationality, culture, and in some cases, even religion. Most definitions will understand race to be a social.
Yeah, sorry. I guess I was being a classist there, Infidel. My apologies there. Please don't cancel me. I know I was being classist. Rich people do still too. Yes, you're right. But fuck poor people.
Construct, which categorizes people based on physical traits or phenotypes or ancestry, which implies race could be based on genetics or family lineage. Any definitions of race or racism will also call attention to hierarchical implications or power dynamics. The standard method of determining race for data collection in the U.S. Census and most race-based studies and surveys is self-identified race and ethnicity. The U.S. Office of Personnel Management's Guide to Personnel Data Standards on Ethnicity and Race Identification has the following options: Hispanic or Latino, American Indian or Alaskan Native, Asian.
Yeah, no, I understand what you mean. They hate what is associated with the identifier. I understand that, but why are they choosing that as the identifier though? Okay, for instance, if like, well, I notice mostly men are the ones that are stealing, right? How come I'm not just saying, man, I fucking hate men because they just steal all the time? How come I'm choosing, no, it's black people, it's black men or black women or something? How come I'm not just saying, well, it's men, you know? There are some people who do that. They choose gender as the identifier to hate, So that's what I'm trying to say. That's why racism exists, because there are people that choose the skin color as that identifier to classify the group that they dislike.
So I suppose a white Russian would be considered Asian. Black or African American, Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander, and white, which the form states includes Middle Eastern or North African descent, meaning an Iraqi Muslim or an Egyptian are white. So let's take another moment to examine this. What does this document mean by Hispanic? Is this a race including the people of Latin American descent, or is Hispanic related to the people, speech, or culture of Spain? Spain is in Europe, and some Spanish people are considered Caucasian, which is people from the Caucasus Mountains, which border Europe and Asia, hence Caucasian. Your skin could be white, brown, or black, and you could have roots in Europe or South America and be considered Hispanic. An American Indian may consider themselves American or Indian, which has nothing to do with India, or maybe mestizo, which is indigenous in Spanish, which would be a European, Caucasian, Latin, Native American. Please make sense of which race that is. You could have olive skin and be from Turkey, but according to race identification forms, you would be in the category of white. Someone could be of Jamaican Canadian descent, but call themselves an African American. Black could be African, American, European, or Canadian with any multitude of cultural and genetic backgrounds. As far as religion, some people would consider Jewish or Muslim to be a race. Regardless of what country they are from or phenotypes they present, their religion is their race. These are just some examples of the inconsistencies in the idea of race or racism. But before I move on to the last part of my opening, I want to explain a little bit about the history behind the word and the concept. According to modern sources, the concept of racism started with white Christian Europeans in the late 1500s to early 1600s who would travel to Africa to capture slaves, participate in the transatlantic slave trade, and use the Bible to justify slavery. This is the story Google will tell you, but I believe this is a pile of revisionist crap. One thing we do actually know about the word racism is that its first recorded use in America was by Army officer Richard Henry Pratt in 1902 when he used racialism, but eventually just said racism to describe racial segregation in America. So he's saying racial segregation is racist. Richard Henry Pratt was also the founder of the notorious Carlisle School, which was accused of kidnapping and even murdering hundreds of indigenous children to force assimilation. Pratt was remembered for the quote, "Kill the Indian, save the man." So the guy who started using the word that was later harnessed by the left, Marxists, and race hustlers like Martin Luther King, Jesse Jackson, and Al Sharpton, and many other liberal-minded civil rights operatives, that guy who made that word was openly racist. Now that we have some definitions or lack thereof, I'll finish by just running through my three main arguments against the idea that racism can actually be a form of hate rooted in reality. If we must divide hate into different forms, I would pose that what we call racism is actually idealism. My first reason for pushing this paradigm is a philosophical argument for the typology of hate that doesn't include racism as a form or type, but encompasses it under an ideological category of hate. This is a broader form of hate, but I believe when hate and evil are divided and categorized so specifically, the words lose meaning and the labels can be used as weapons against the masses. Therefore, I will argue that idealism is a better, more accurate understanding of so-called racist hate. The second argument is logic-based, resting on the convoluted nature of the words race or racism and the inability to coherently and consistently define them. Depending on what definition I use, everyone or no one can be racist. It just doesn't make sense. My third and final argument is a spiritual-based or metaphysical argument. And to explain it, I'm going to drop a little Bible verse. We don't need to do Bible thumping or argue about divine mysteries, but regardless what the proper exegesis of this verse is, just think about it as a deep quote from a great man named Paul. Ephesians 6:12, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. I actually don't think there are any forms of hate, but for the sake of debate, and in order to combat this worldly lie of racism.
Marte's reaction there was my thought. I was like, wait, what? There's no forms of hate? Okay, so you can't, not only is there no racism anymore, and in the chat he's saying there's no sexism, I guess. There's not even no hatred? What? That doesn't make any sense to me.
I'll use worldly ideas as the basis for all ideological hate. In some situations, so-called racism could be malicious hate, but that's usually just reactionary. So I'm going to lean away from that idea. I will argue all of these ideas, but I know that hate is truly of the spirit and it's colorblind. Our spirit affects our brain affects our words and thoughts and actions. We ought not label that spirit racism because it's a misnomer, and we need to call our demons out by name in order to overcome them. Words like racism put some in fear of being called racist. It victimizes others by giving them an excuse to fail. And this word is weaponized by the children of Satan to divide, destabilize, and destroy. Speaking of spirits, I hope we have a spirited debate. Thanks again, Marte and Easy, and I'll drop the mic.
All right.
Yeah, so yeah, I wanted to give you a fair shake. You're being pretty cool about it, so I wanted to check it out. It didn't change my mind, but I think I understand what you're getting at. I just still disagree. So I'm just gonna play a little bit of Marte. I'm not gonna play all of Marte's opener, but he uses Charlie Kirk's definition, so this is where Marte is coming from.
That it had to be the exercise of power. I'm going to make your definition better for you because the exercise of power against a minority group.
Yes.
But in that case, it wouldn't be, because it would be a group of black individuals versus a white individual.
Correct.
So wouldn't a better definition of racism be a human being or institution prejudicing or stereotyping against anybody else because of their race?
I have had 80% more negative experience.
So it's hating someone because of their race. That's pretty much what. So let's get back to the debate.
God, bro, this is bad. So they don't want to be in there with a black person.
Well, okay,
Would
that's
you
fine.
say
That's fine.
that's right?
No.
Are they? Is that so? You've already admitted
No.
because they're black, they don't want to be.
Because if a black Crip was in jail and he said, "I don't want to be in jail. I don't want to be in a cell with a black blood,"
Yeah.
I wouldn't. What would I call that?
That would be something else because it's not because of their
gangism.
race. That wouldn't be because of. So now,
Well, here's the thing. I think in that situation, you probably would get those two black people, even though they're opposing gangs. You probably would get them sharing the same cell, because in prison, the whites in there or the other races in there, they're not going to see, oh, I'm cool with this guy because he's a black blood, but I don't fuck with this guy because he's a black Crip. They're just going to see them both as black people, AKA racism. They're like, I don't care what group they're in. They're both black. I ain't going to associate with them.
you see how labels help us out. What
No,
you're doing is
it
wanting to
doesn't help
remove
us now
that.
We already saw this, so I'm going to skip ahead a little bit.
May not even have a concise definition of what is. Here's my example.
This idea comes from race hustlers, and it comes from civil rights
I
Marxist
believe
ideology.
people can abuse the word racist and then use it because black supremacy does exist, meaning they're outwardly saying that blacks can't be racist at all, which is a lever of.
Why are you going to
leverage
use the
on
words
white
of the
people when they
enemy?
say this, which is complete bullshit. I
Why are you
believe
going
that.
to
Yeah.
talk like the enemy and use the words of the enemy? You're
Wait,
a
what were you
Christian. You
saying
know
before?
this is. You're
What
a
were you
Christian.
saying?
You know this is a spiritual battle. It's not a physical battle. So why are you going to talk like the enemy
So
using words
here's-
like
here's the thing.
racism?
I'm not
because
talking like the enemy. I'm pointing out the enemy's own contradictions. When I call a duck and say if it quacks like a duck and this and that, if you see somebody walk into a church and they don't acclimate to the church foundation, you're going to say that's a sinner. Let's say that we took your prescription.
No.
and we-
So listen, I don't know for sure. If they separate all the gangs, listen, I've never been to prison. Okay, hopefully it stays that way. But as far as I know, doesn't everyone segregate via race there? That's like pretty much, since that's the most obvious way to separate each other. Isn't it like, well, the whites stay over here, the blacks over here, the Mexicans or Latinos over here, and the one or two Asians over there. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I always assumed. If they're separated via the gangs, so who does this? They photograph every tattoo intake and will separate gangs. Well, that's not them doing it. Well, I guess they're doing it because they're going to fuck each other up. I just assumed it was always by race.
You're pushing the idea.
Hold on real quick. Let's say if we took identifiers and descriptors off of everything, we wouldn't know what a sinner is, because guess what happens? Even if we have an action, we can't label it anymore. Do you see how muddy this gets and broadened when we say these things? You can't label anybody a racist if they're hanging somebody up and telling you, I'm doing this because your color. Oh, this doesn't exist and you're not a racist, even though you're saying you hate blacks. This is your whole argument.
No, white people lynched white people.
Argument.
White people lynched white people too. Lots of people were lynched. More white people were lynched in America than black people. So
people are lynched. Can we reconcile with motive? What was the motive behind blacks getting lynched by whites?
You push the idea that if I don't hire somebody because they have a black sounding name, that's racist. Do you know how liberal and dumb of an idea that is? If I have
it's not liberal. Would you like to see the study on this?
If I have a business in Salt Lake City,
You'll get blown out right now. I'll show you the study. This is hilarious. I knew you were going to bring this up.
You're going to say because I don't hire somebody because of a black sounding name that I'm racist.
Wait, hold on. Do you want to see the study on this?
I know there's a study on it. The study's bullshit. The study comes from.
You haven't even seen it. You're I
do know the study that you're talking about. I've seen it.
What are stereotypes? Can you tell me what a stereotype is?
Observances, typical observances.
I mean, you're right. It is preferences at the end of the day. But if it's my preference to hate a group of people based by their skin color, that's racism. That's racist. If I was just like, yeah, I just want to hate black people because of whatever reason, that's my preference, but it's racism. By the way, Kokomo, thank you very much for the 3 $10 super chats, brother. Hell yeah. And then you even completed it with the goal. Thank you very much for letting me know. I'll get this goal restarted. There you go. Thank you very much. Showing the power of the Coolverse today. Hell yeah.
In amongst groups or common practices that can be observed in groups.
Cool. Can that include race? A race as well too?
If you can give me a coherent definition for race, what you mean by race. Because I don't know.
When I look at a color, I'm using a very broad generalized term, the one that Charlie Kirk talked about. I'm using his definition.
Just Charlie. Okay, say his definition word for word.
So, okay, let me go back to this.
Well, you don't have to go word for word. You can just, what's his definition of race?
His definition is if you espouse a hate towards a certain people based on their color.
Okay, so colorism.
No, racism, not colorism. That's racism. Because they identify as a race. They're self-identified as a race of people.
Even if it were colorism, well, technically under JS's worldview, that doesn't exist either. You don't really hate someone because of their skin color. It's all the spiritual stuff that he's saying. So even by his own logic, colorism doesn't even exist.
If I tell you I'm black, are you going to say, well, you don't know if you're black or not? Would you ever say anything like this? Would you utter that? Like, you're not black, Marte.
Well, let's say I'm a racist and I hate black people. Don't clip that, YouTube.
I'm clipping the shit out of this, but go ahead.
I'm a racist and I hate black people. And I meet Easy and I hang out with Easy for like 6 months and I get along with him. I consider him a friend. And then one day I'm like, hey, what's up, white boy? And he's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm half black and half white and I actually identify as black. Now all of a sudden he's black. I can't like him. I can't be his friend anymore. I got to hate him now.
Yeah, that's your choice because you said racism is a preference. And
no, you said racism is a color, but
when you say colorism, that's just another word for racism. That's all that is because blacks are racist within themselves. You'll have blacks that hate light-skinned blacks because they think they're uppity and too good. Matter of fact, they label white blacks effeminate. You know, this has been a mantra within the black community for a long time. Matter of fact, let's go to an example, a real example. Let's say that this was like some back in the South 50 years ago, and I wanted to drink from a whites-only fountain. Is there a race that it's ascribed to that can only drink from this fountain?
If you wanted to,
What do they mean when? What do they mean by saying whites only? When they say that, what does that mean?
I mean, it's not that complicated. It's a water fountain for white people.
And what do white people identify as at the time?
They self-identify as white.
Which is what?
A shade.
That's also a color. Can you answer the question?
It's not a color, but
What is white?
it's just it's a
What are they
shade. It's a
referring
color.
to?
It's a shade. You want to call it a color? It's a color.
Shade, color. What are they referring to when they say a shade? I'll use your lingo.
What are they referring to? I think they'd be referring to people of European descent,
Which is a what?
a nationality or an ethnicity.
What
So
do
it's
they
not-
also?
so
You're
it's not
running
a-
so hard right now, bro.
I'm not running. I'm trying to
Such a
follow.
run.
I'm trying to
See
show you how
speakeasy
illogical
smiling, bro.
this
You
is.
see the run. Would
I'm
you like
trying
some
to show you
Nikes on
how-
this track, bro?
I'm not running from anything. I'm showing you how illogical this is.
No,
because-
you're running.
Yeah, there's a few times where JS tried to skirt around from saying racism. Like he tried to it's like he would there's a few points where he had to stop himself because he knew if he just said it, then it's like he would lose the debate because he would be admitting racism exists.
Because you want to avoid saying race the whole time. You're like, what can I say that's adjacent to race but not race? Let
So
me just
white-
tell your whole
so-
game right now.
So white is just the race. It's just white.
Are there whites out there that identify themselves as the white race?
Sure.
Do you think that's what they meant by saying whites only water fountain?
Sure.
That's enough, bro. You
So
gotta
that's
stop handing
racist?
These out to me, bro.
Yes,
that's
it's
racist.
racist.
If
Walking
I-
in walls, bro.
If I have a building, if I have a business and I'm in Salt Lake City, Utah, and everybody in my area, all of my customer base is Jones, Smith, Jackson, Andrew. That's all my customer base. So I say 99% of my customers speak English. And then I see a name on an application that says Yaku Umbugataki, or Ukapuntanku. And I'm like, I can't.
Hey, I know that guy. Good pal of mine. Ukaputaki. Cool guy.
pronounce this name. This
That's
person's not going
inaccurate.
to
You
know how
gotta
to
put some
speak
chip
English.
noises in there, bro. Go ahead.
You know,
Bro, you gotta say the chip noises. Let's hear it, bro. Because it doesn't exist, so you might as well throw a
But,
banana
okay,
in there
no.
too. I'm
But
not
the
being
point
racist,
is-
by the way.
the point is, I see that name and I say that person's not going to be able to speak English. I'm not going to be able to train them properly. They're not going to be able to deal with my customers and answer questions efficiently. I'm not going to hire them.
JS,
That makes me, I'm racist now.
Urban Adventures. Can I? Oh God,
Yes. I'm like, yes.
I'm calling you your government now.
Just call me
dog.
Josh or JS.
I don't want to call you your YouTube government name right now. JS,
I would just call him Mr. Urban Adventure. Excuse me, Mr. Urban Adventure.
let's say I tell you that I like to peel bananas with my feet. And I like to swing on trees. I love grape drink. Actually, that's true. And I love fried chicken because my melanin makes me love this. And then not to mention this, but I rail against black people just because of their skin all the time. And I have the tenacity. For some reason, whenever I see a banana, I just want to peel this with my feet. For some reason, I don't like using my hands because,
I call you a
I feel
monkey.
stinging right now when I tell you this. But now that I'm telling you this right now, but I tell you, God, man, for some reason, I hate my own self and I hate black people.
Is
Would you
he
believe
trying to
me?
talk to us right now? Who's he talking to? I don't think.
I don't know. He's
I don't
talking to the.
I don't know who he's talking to.
I
But
think
anyway,
he's getting stalked right now. Ghost.
Oh, yeah. Speakeasy's just there, just chatting away down in the corner. Trafalgar, thank you very much for $4.99. Marte wins this one. JS needs to spend time with other races for a while, and he will see it's a real thing. P.S. Your shirts are the best. Like, oh, well, thank you very much, Trafalgar. Hell yeah. Shirt W. Thank you very much, brother. Thank you very much for the $4.99.
Face is hunting him on the phone right now.
sorry. So
Speakeasy, what's your favorite movie?
if you told me you swing
Bro,
from
don't
trees and
answer
peel
the phone,
bananas
bro.
with your feet, I'd compare you to a monkey. I'd call you a monkey.
Oh, damn. Racist. Clip that, guys. Kidding, by the way. But if racism doesn't exist, why doesn't JS say the N-word right here on, why doesn't he say, he should just be able to say the N-word willy-nilly, and then when people go, hey, why are you saying that? You just be like, well, racism doesn't exist. You're just allowing them to separate us, brother.
Would that be racist?
Yeah, I
wanted-
would say yeah.
I
That's
wanted
racist as hell.
to.
What?
I wanted to. That's funny.
Would I be wrong for saying that's racist?
Well, it's comparable to a monkey. You're swinging from trees and peeling bananas with your feet. What are you talking about?
You know
That
what
has
I
nothing
just
to do with
did?
your
I
skin
created
color.
some content so I can clip you out of context. Oh God, I'm
Yeah, but I would dare JS to go into a black neighborhood or something and just say the N-word like nothing, and let's see how he gets treated. I'm pretty sure he's not going to get treated friendly. There'd be like, hey, why are you saying that, white boy? Why are you saying that, for cracker? Well, no, racism doesn't exist. Didn't you guys hear? Yeah, shut the fuck up, and then just kick his ass.
so good at this.
That's what would happen because racism exists.
So now that I got my premium content, let's get back to the debate. Now that I have my content clip that I needed.
Oh, I'm
back to
fine with
this
it.
Debate. I'm telling you right now, if I tell you that I'm a self-hating, self-race hating person, you wouldn't believe me.
You're a self-race hating person. No, I
Let's
just say
get-
you. I just
I'm
say you're.
literally being called that by Krusty or Dustina, whatever his name is right now. He's telling me, why do you hate your own people? Why do you hate your own kind? But what if I reaffirm this and say, yes, I do hate myself because of my race only, not many other reason, not because of crime or anything else. I hate myself only because of race. You don't think that that's self-internalized racism?
No, I'd say you have some weird mental disability, and it's in your mind. Your idea is your mind is broken. That's why racism is
So you
just
don't
hate,
like labels.
and it
You don't wanna
usually comes
identify
from
anything.
dumb people.
So all I've
Racism,
gotten
race, quote unquote racism.
all I've
Dumb
gotten this
people.
whole debate is when I
Dumb people don't exist.
reference the KKK saying they hate a certain person, you just call them idiots. And then when people say that they're declined because of pit bulls and they're saying because of a species of dogs, you just say that they're dumb people. And now you revert to the same
Barn Diesel? Oh, that's freaking funny. You're saying he looks like the dude from Yellowstone? I see it. That's hilarious.
thing by saying they're dumb people. What you're doing this whole debate, and I see this the whole time, is you're saying, no, we can have hate. We just need to take away the motivation behind this by stripping the labels off of this. That actually
Yeah.
makes society worse if we can't identify anything. Therefore, we don't have descriptors.
If you
That's
hate
a horrible
somebody,
prescription.
yeah, you said racism is colorism, but then when I said white, what is white? White is an ethnicity. It's of European
White-
descent, or white could be
White's a
of
contrast.
North African or
Could
Middle
be.
Eastern descent.
I'll give you that much. It could be, but what's that part and parcel with in the South, in Selma? Whites only sign over water fountains. What are they implying? You didn't want to
In-group-
say race. Tell me that that's not
in
race.
group preference. It's the
So
same
they're
as
not
the
talking about a race when it says whites only?
yes, because it's not about the skin color. It's not about the nationality. It's about the ideas.
Wait, you just said yes, they identify as a race, and then you said no, it's
They
not
identify.
because of
Yes,
skin
people
color.
identify as things all the time.
You just contradicted yourself again, bro. Andrew's debate course is available, bro. Like this is let's get back to this debate. I don't know why I'm saying this right now. I just want to be charitable and help you out a little bit. I'm just telling you right now, like a lot of the things that you're saying right now do not exist. Even though I'll even concede. I'll concede this to you right now. You look like Christian Bale's
You're right.
brother,
Race
by the
does
way,
not exist.
which is a compliment. In some angles, you look like Chris. You could be Christian Bale. But anyways, back to this. I think that I agree with you most of the time. The agreement that I have on your side is saying that this is a construct within the mind. What I'm talking about is how we observe this in reality and what's expressed. And if people express this thing, I would be more inclined to believe you. If you said that you're the KKK and you're moving in next door, you're basically saying you shouldn't have any concern because they hate you just because. There's no reason why they hate you. It's not because of your color. They just hate you, even though they don't know you, but we can't ascribe a label or an identifier to this.
Yeah,
That's
it's
weird.
Just hate. Why is it weird? That's not an argument.
Hate doesn't exist. Thank you very much, Reexamination Show. For $5, race is a doctrine from racism ideology, just like trans is a doctrine from LGBT ideology. Both are nonsense and false. Both also exist. Yes, yes, indeed, Reexamination Show. Thank you very much for the $5. Very much appreciated.
You're saying it's weird is not an argument because you're not giving me a demonstration of why it's weird. All you're just doing is saying, I'm giving you an empty assertion. Hey, it's weird.
I've explained to
That's
you.
it. But I can't tell you why it's weird because
Okay,
I'm
so
obfuscating
tell
away
me-
from race. That's what it really is.
I gave you, we're talking about typologies of hate in this debate. The prompt is racism is not race-based hate, but other forms of hatred. I'm giving you a typology. There are 4 forms of hate. Racism is not one of them. Now you tell me how many types of race there are and why
Wait.
race is one of the forms. But you're going to need to tell me how many forms of race there are.
You're telling me that racism doesn't exist.
No, the debate is racism is not race-based hate, but other forms of hate.
So racism isn't race-based hate?
Yeah, it's not actually based off race because, like you said,
So
white,
hold on.
white
woman
is a
at the
race,
beginning
but
of
we
the
don't even
video-
know what white is. It's a color.
The woman at the beginning of the video said, I'm black and I hate whites. That's not
Yeah.
based off of hate?
I know.
Towards
I already
whites, a
covered.
race?
I already covered this argument in my rebuttal. I understand people are going to self-identify if they believe in this concept. I'm saying they're wrong.
What?
Okay, why are they wrong?
Yeah.
Because race is not a form of hatred. They've believed into something that isn't real. So it's the same way as the transgender that says I'm a male, but you're not a male, you're a woman. Just because
That's different though. You could biologically verify if that person's a man or a woman or not. You could biologically verify that. You know, so if you're a man and you say, no, I'm a woman, that's obviously a lie. No, you're clearly a man. We could test that. We could test your DNA. Hatred, though, is a feeling. So you can't, it's like you can't tell someone like, hey, you don't really feel this way about something. It's like, well, what are you talking about? Yeah. I mean, I feel pretty angry. I feel pretty angry at this person. And I can't look at a group of people without feeling this kind of anger toward them. And so, I mean, how can you tell people like, oh, if they say, yeah, I hate this person because they're, you know, this skin color, you go, nope, you really don't. It's like, what are you talking about? And then what if you ask them like, well, no, really, what you really hate about them is these underlying reasons there. And then what if they told you, no, I actually just don't like the way, you know, white skin color looks. I think it's gross. It looks like mayonnaise. It disgusts me. And then when they have blonde hair, I don't like it. I hate it. I hate white people. I don't even care if they're good people, bad people. I just hate that skin color. What are you going to tell them? Are you just going to tell them, no, you don't really feel that way? They're like, yes, I do, JS Adventures. JS, I promise you, I really feel this way. Nope. No.
somebody self-identifies with somebody doesn't make it real. They've been deceived. They've been lied to, and they believed into the lie.
So you're doing this really slick, I would say a conflation, when really that's kind of like I would say a false equivalent. And the reason why is that's a false equivalent is because objectively, in reality, we can see that they're a man. In reality, we can see that the black man is approaching the whites only water fountain. Do you understand that? These are things we can objectively see. That's
Yeah.
a false equivalent. Now walk down this with me as I go ahead. Hold on. We're in the time machine. Marty McFly, Speakeasy's in the back with the DeLorean, and he's like, bro, I'm dropping you off at Selma, 1950 or whatever. And JS, I said, you know what? You dare me to drink out of that whites only water fountain? It's because they hate me. It's not because of race. Would you allow me to do that?
I can
Bro, I'm thirsty. I'm really thirsty right now.
I can objectively see the KKK burning the cross in the yard, but I can't objectively see their hate towards black people because let's say, for example, you had a
No, can you answer
KKK
the
member.
question, though?
Your questions are convoluted. Ask the question.
They're not
again.
convoluted. They're not. We're back in the time machine because Speakeasy's in the back. We took the DeLorean. He's,
Okay.
you know, ghost riding the whip in the
Go to
back.
Jim
back
Crow.
to Oasis, Alabama. And I'm saying, hey, I'm thirsty. I'm going to drink out of this whites only water fountain. I dare they would. I wish they would, right? And I'm walking towards that. Would you stop me?
No. I think it'd be pretty funny. I'd be like, yeah, go do it. Let's see what happens.
Oh yeah, you're gonna let
Christmas ornament in like 5 minutes.
yeah somebody. I know you're gonna let just Marte risk his well-being just to go get a sip from a water fountain because you think it's funny. Yeah, no, that's a lie. That's a lie. We all know JS Urban Adventures would be like, hey, no, don't do that, Marte. Marte, nope, don't do that. And if you know what, if you do that and he beat you up, I'll just try to tell him, hey, listen, you don't really hate him because he's black. You hate him because of something else.
That's what's gonna happen, bro. I'm gonna be a Christmas ornament, and I'm gonna be toasty like a Mortal Kombat fatality.
And somebody asked JLP about this, Jesse Lee Peterson, this same question about the water fountains because he grew up in Jim Crow. They asked him, "Did you have the different water fountains?" He said, "Yeah." They said, "What if you would have went to the other water fountain?" He said, "Nothing would have happened. Maybe you would have got some weird looks from people, but nothing would have really happened." He said they enjoyed the separate water fountains because there's an extra water fountain.
That's
their own
that's
section.
a crazy take, even for Jesse Lee Peterson to say that. But I'm pretty sure that there's like
Why is that a
one-offs
crazy
that
take? I think
happen.
that's a base take. They
Let's
had
say
their
like
own
one-off
section
that
in the
happened.
Wait,
Jesse
wait.
Lee Peterson's so that's an anecdote that you're giving me. That's not actual proof or anything like that. Let's say that sign was
It's a citation from an expert.
The paint that okay. Tell me how he's an expert on this.
How he's an expert on race. He's a 80-year-old black guy who grew up during Jim Crow.
That doesn't tell me how he's an expert, because my grandfather could be an expert too, because he was in the NAACP and
He's talked to thousands and thousands of people about race relations for the past 30 years. So I'd say he's an expert.
Back to my example, the paint is about to dry on the whites only sign, and the person that just put it up, I'm about to drink as this person's walking off, and he sees me. And his cronies see me. Do you think anything would happen?
And they beat you up or something? Yeah,
Do you
sure.
think
They
that I
go
would have
and
just
they beat you up.
Oh, they let me off easy.
Yeah, they go and lynch you.
Okay, so Rosewood. Have you ever seen the movie Rosewood before?
They'd lynch somebody from their own group if they violated a law or broke a rule.
Yeah. What were these laws? Who are these laws against? Even if they lynched themselves.
Against what they saw as another race.
Okay, so all of this is against a race, literally defining racism, but walk with me. So because all of this is against a race and they hate a race, right?
Yeah, that's what they think, because that's what the world has pushed on them.
So
that's the idea
okay,
that the
cool.
world pushes.
They think they're racist. These people think they're racist, and they would go hang up an N-word like me on a tree, and I'll be toasty, and then Ed Boon pops out of the side of the screen. So they would not be racist.
You really believe like the KKK was just out here running around, just murdering up all kinds of black people all day, huh? You believe
I'll
the
tell
lie?
you, this will be really brief. We were the last state in Arizona to get Martin Luther King Day. And when I walk with my grandmother, because we were marching for this MLK Day we were supposed to get, which I think is BS. I don't think we should have that, by the way. Base, by the way. I'll boost myself. I was walking and I saw my grandma. I said, who are those ghosts over there? Those people dressed up like ghosts? They have a black one. That's cool. My grandma said, keep walking. Don't look at them. So I was walking and I saw my grandma's shadow, and we were walking, and next thing you know, like I wasn't holding her hand anymore. And mind you, it's Arizona, it's hot as shit outside, and I don't see her, and she's laying on the side of the road because police are boarding everything off, and there's a brick by her head. And I look up, and there's like a guy picking me up, swooping me, and there's another brick that lobs by me, and it only came from these white ghosts. And my grandma got up.
Is this a
and
true
bless her
story?
heart. Yeah, this really happened. We
Your
were the
grandma
last
got
to get this.
bricked up by some KKKs?
Yeah, this happened in front of me, and I was a kid when this happened. So my grandmother, she's a tough ass woman. She got up.
I'm sorry, just bricked up. I think I remember someone in the chat saying, Jay said bricked up.
And she said, she acted like this shit didn't even happen. I was like, Grandma, a brick. She was like, shut your mouth. We got to keep walking. Lord, holy mercy. She was like one of these Protestant Baptists or whatever. And we kept walking. And I was like, Grandma, why did the ghost hit you with a brick? She was like, well, I'll tell you about that. She never did tell me about what happened later. But you don't think that was out of a certain hate for a race?
I believe that was out of hate, and I believe that was evil. And I believe
Were
those guys.
people racist?
No.
Yes, they were. Again, they could use any other identifiers, but they're using race. The KKK was based off of hating people that are non-white, of a certain skin color. Okay, that's the identifier they're choosing to hate with, you could argue that, oh yeah, there's something internally going on inside and spiritually going on inside. And yeah, maybe that's all true. Maybe it's all true, but it doesn't negate the fact that they are using skin color to focus as the identifier. They're choosing that as the identifier to base off of their hatred off of. Again, what if Marte's grandma was bricked up because they hated old people? What if they're just like, I hate old people? They could have done that. The KKK could have been just anti-hate old people, but they weren't. They're anti-black people. So yes, that's racism.
They just hated. They're just hateful.
Speakeasy, are you like the equivalent of a judge here because I'm arguing my case and his?
No.
My
I sentence you, JS, to 10 years probation.
opponent pleads insanity right now. I'm just telling you right now, he pleads insanity. Just telling you, you can get off. Just plead insanity, JS, while you got the chance to do this right
Do you
now.
think that KKK guy who threw that brick, if he were in a life-threatening situation, he's dangling off a cliff and some black guy runs up and says, "Let me help you, sir," and he reaches out his hand, is the white guy going to say, "No, Blackie, go get me a white guy to save my life"?
Do you
Yeah, he actually could let the black guy save his life, but then still hate the black guy after. Like, yeah, thanks, Blackie. Now fuck off. You know, but imagine the black guy. Here, take my hand. No, I don't. Give me the white guy's hand. No, he can't right now. Take my hand. It's my lighter skin hand. You know, Scary Movie 2. And then the freaking white guy just freaking chooses to fall.
think the white person would help him?
I don't know. There is no white person. This guy's
Okay.
gonna die because he won't accept help from a black guy. 'Cause
There
he's
are people that
racist.
would probably do that. Yeah, to be honest with you, yeah.
I
There are
don't think
people that would
is.
die on their own swords. Actually, it's stupid. I know that this happens a lot because of pride. Pride is a hell of a drug. When you say I'm so, and here's the thing though, you can't have white pride, even though I can have black pride. And for some reason, racism has had these constructs that don't exist, to where I can say I have black power, black pride, but let you go ahead and say anything like that. What are you going to be called again?
I'm gonna be called a racist.
You're going to be called a racist, and are you going to be treated differently in society because of this?
Sure.
So, okay, so this construct
Because
comes
those
down to the
people are
actions of reality.
because there's a
Therefore, it
lot
does
of
exist.
racistist people.
Wait,
Racist-
what? What
Racist
is?
people. There's a lot of people who hate racists, so they're racistist.
So, if they hate racists, you just conceded that racists do exist. That's another concession, bro.
Oh.
JS, bro. Come on, bro.
That's not a concession, dude.
You're
What
like
I'm
the guy that
showing you.
snitches on himself in prison and says,
Yeah, so then there you go. Racism exists because if you hate racists, well, that means racists exist, or else what do you hate? So yeah, that happens several times in this debate where he kind of fucks up and says something, and Marte goes, "Hey, that's a contradiction there." Marte calls him out.
Not
you
a
know, I just want to
concession.
get
I'm
less time.
showing
That's it,
you.
bro.
I'm showing you how illogical it is. If racist
I'm
is
waiting
a
for the
person who hates
illogical
another race,
Demonstration.
then a racist is a person who hates racists.
So, if they hate something, how can they hate something
I'm
if
showing
this
you how-
concept or ideal doesn't exist?
I'm showing you how dumb both are. Both
I
would be
agree.
dumb.
Both of these people are stupid. I
Just
agree.
like
Both are
speciesist would
stupid.
be dumb.
So
Yeah.
we're saying it exists, but it's
If I have-
stupid.
Yeah, no, I've heard about that Battlefield production. That's something that we all misremember. It's one of those Mandela effect quotes, like the Luke, I am your father. That's not exactly what he says, but you get the idea. Everyone remembers it as take my strong hand. So that's what I decided to say.
If I have a preference of vegetables, then I'm
Wait,
vegetalist.
Wait, hold on. Let's rewind this. You're saying these people hate something
But if race doesn't exist, how does one become a race expert?
that exists, and I agree with you. It's stupid. Am I correct? You just said that.
They hate something that exists.
They hate something that exists in their reality or our social reality. Did I hear you correctly? Because that's what you said.
Yes, but
Oh God, bro.
yeah, I'm saying people are hateful.
Bro, JS, come on, bro. You gotta help me out a little bit.
I mean,
Just fight back, bro. Fight.
You keep like laughing and
No,
nodding,
you
like,
don't.
"Oh, I got you." I haven't seen how you've got me on anything. So the KKK is racist. So why
Charles
was there?
Blind wasn't racist, but you're using Charles Blind debate tactics. Charles, can't
I don't know who that is.
Ray
There's only
Charles debate tactics right now. He wasn't racist at all because he couldn't see. But
Yeah.
you're debating like Ray Charles right now because you can't see what I'm telling you right now and ignoring everything in objective reality. This is crazy.
yeah, you can't look past your lens that race and racism are real, so you can't see it from my perspective. But Ray Charles,
OMG, I know everyone here. Y'all intimidated by a girl says a lot. Intimidated by a girl, would that make us sexist? But I thought sexism didn't exist.
couldn't be racist, right?
No, he was blind.
Okay, so a blind person cannot be racist because they can't see.
If they can't see
But
a
what
color,
if I can hear your voice and I notice that black people typically have a certain type of cadence and a certain type of voice, and I don't like that type of voice? Is that
yeah,
racist?
that would be hatred towards a certain voice.
But
yeah.
I don't know what color they are.
Yeah, that would be hatred towards a certain voice.
Would that
But
be
if I
called
tell you,
racism?
We give
Or
Ray
would that be
Charles,
called
like,
voice? Would that be called voicism?
that would be hatred towards a voice.
That
But here's the thing, though.
soundism?
Let's say that we gave Ray Charles his vision. Ray Charles can see. Now
And
he
he says,
acknowledges.
"Damn, I'm black. I hate black people."
Well, Tyrone Biggums, right? I can
Yeah,
read
I
several
know.
different examples of people who say they are racist and
Yeah, that's a correction there. It wasn't Tyrone Bigham. It's Clayton Bixby was the black KKK blind guy.
unbeknownst to them, they're
And that-
racist against their own people like that.
You know, that's a point in my favor. That's
no,
a
it's not
great
a point in your
example.
favor.
That's a great example of how racism isn't a real thing, because Tyrone Biggums was a KKK guy, but he was blind. And once he saw that he was black, he divorced
And
his
then
wife
who
because she
did
was
he
an
hate? Even
inward
though he
lover.
wasn't, even though he was blind, who did he specifically say he hated? Uncle
Black
Ruckus
people.
could see. Who did he hate?
These are fictional characters.
Okay, let's say it's a hypothetical and these fictional characters exist because hypotheticals can be fiction. Let's say these
To be fair, Marte, they all look the same.
characters exist and Uncle Ruckus, I don't know if you know who that is, but
That's not racist, by the way, because it doesn't exist. So I could say that.
I do.
Uncle Ruckus was extremely based, by the way. But back to this, it's a black guy that hates black people because he hates the jigaboos and hates jigaboo culture.
I would
is he
call
not
that- I
racist
would call
even though he
that-
says he's racist.
I would just call that self-hatred. Or actually, I would still just call that hatred. That's an ideological form of hate.
Okay,
hate-
does he have a reason behind this hate?
Or actually, that would be one of the other types of hate, one of the 4 types of
What
hate.
would be the reason? What would be the motivation behind this hate, or the reason that he's saying this?
He
I hate
says
who?
it's because of race.
So if
I
you say
hate-
it's because of race, don't believe
I-
these people.
No, because they're wrong. That's my argument. And you're not contending.
You're not
you
telling me
keep
how they're
saying,
wrong.
I say racism isn't real. You say, but this person says they're racist, so that proves you wrong.
So
No,
their
I'm saying that
motivation
person's
isn't
wrong.
real. Their motivation isn't real.
Their motivation is a
They act out the motivation. That's not real, right?
yeah, but their motivation is something that they ideologically learned, and they're putting onto other people.
Yeah. Religion gets put on other people, and what do the people do? They demonstrate this. If you tell racist
Right.
people that, like, let's say I've grown up in a household where I automatically hate white people, and I grow up and every person that I hate, I just hate white people. Racism, you've already admitted this. You said racism can be implanted like a seed in other people, and then they can act out on this, but they don't exist, which
Yes,
is crazy.
Yeah,
A
lies have
crazy
a way.
premise.
Lies have a way of spreading throughout people and cultures, and this one has spread
Correct.
throughout
Do these
the world.
lies come to
But
fruition?
you can't
sometimes?
even possibly imagine a world where it doesn't exist.
Do these lies come to fruition sometimes? Can beliefs become real through action?
Mm, I mean,
Do people demonstrate racism?
they can demonstrate what you would call racism.
Okay, they're demonstrating what I call racism. What
Yeah.
will they be called then?
I'm not arguing that people will do things that you would call racism. I'm saying that that's not racism.
So, can you answer the question? They do things out of a race and some racially motivated, hateful thing, like they lynch somebody, and they're telling you, "I'm a racist and I hate those people."
Yeah, like
Are they? What should the media call them if we're not going to call them racist?
evil.
Evil person lynches. What would you call the other person then?
How come they only
You can't call
call
them black because they're not racist.
The fallacy with the whole "you're just evil" or it's just you're just full of hate if you're racist, because you could have racism that's not out of hatred. You could actually have benevolent racism. That's what we're seeing with DEI, or these freaking white liberals are all like, "Oh, well, we need to hire more black people to be pilots and all this stuff. You know, we need to do that. We need to discriminate against whites." You know, that's a form of benevolent racism. It's not because they hate black people. It's because they actually feel bad for black people and think black people have been oppressed and stuff. So they want to try to give them a leg up. That's not out of hatred, but it's racist, because you're also making all these assumptions about them based off of their skin color. Like, oh, this poor black person, they obviously grew up in the ghetto. They had a bad life. Therefore, we should give them a chance. The black person's like, actually, I grew up in a middle class family, sir. And they're like, no, you didn't. But and so yeah, and also you could be racist without being hateful toward them.
This anymore,
Whoa,
right?
whoa, whoa.
Evil
Are you-
person lynches who?
Are you okay when they call one race racist? And this gets down to hate
Can you
speech. And
answer?
hate.
Wait, what does that have to do with the point, though? Even if that were true, and I don't know if it's true or not, but just even if I concede that, how does that go against the argument, though, that that's DEI is discriminatory in favors of minority groups?
Question.
Friends too.
Can you answer a
Well,
question?
you've asked a bunch of questions. I want to ask a question now.
Yeah, but can we get to this one because this is like an extension? Who did they
Sure.
lynch? Since they're only lynching them because they
DEI isn't only about race, though; it's also about gender. So white women, right? Because they're anti-white men. So white women, though, that's an exception.
hate them. Who's the person that they lynched?
Everybody was getting lynched, just like everybody was enslaved.
Okay, now it's plural. I'm talking about one person, and they're a certain race, a black person. Who did they lynch?
They weren't just lynching them because they were black. They were lynching them because they had done something.
I
So
asked you a question.
you said, who were they lynching? Black people.
No,
Maybe.
just one person.
also white
okay,
people.
they're lynching black people. So these
They're not just
people hate
lynching
black people
though.
just
You're
because they hate them.
You're presupposing something in your question that I don't agree to. You're smuggling that in. I don't agree that
No,
only
in the
white people
hypothetical,
were
the
lynching
person
only
says
black
I'm
people.
racist towards those black people, and they lynch a black person. But you're saying that person's no longer identifying as racist. They just lynch them because they hate them. But then when I ask you,
They may
who's the
identify
other
as racist.
you don't want to say that they're black because it definitely destroys your whole point. And now
are
you're saying
black.
those black people. This is crazy, JS. What are we doing
Yeah.
here, bro?
A white guy lynches a black guy.
That's true too. Don't call it art. Your voice sounds like Theo Von. Now I can't unhear it. If I just look away and just listen.
And he says it's because he's black.
Yeah.
Okay. And you say that's racist.
The
I
guy
say-
says I'm racist.
Okay. And I say he doesn't hate him just because he's black. He hates them because of these preconceived notions that
I totally hear it. Now I can't unhear it.
have been put on him that
You-
he thinks is a thing. But black is just a color. He doesn't know where that guy's from. He doesn't know anything about that guy.
You just did it again, bro. You said just because he's black.
Yes.
So you
exactly.
agree that he's racist and did it just because he's black, but
Yeah.
also you want to smuggle it in and said, well, not just because he's
No.
black. Do you agree he did this just because he's black
No,
too?
he didn't do it just because he's black. If this person was a
But
blank
you just
slate,
said he
hold
did
on.
it
Yeah.
just because
on.
he didn't do it just because
No,
he's
no.
black.
You're
Oh,
implying
you
that the
just
racism.
contradicted yourself.
You're implying that the racism is some sort of inherent born thing that we're born with. If this KKK guy who was going to lynch this black guy, say he got hit in the head with a rock the day before he did the lynching and he had amnesia, he forgot everything he had ever learned. Is he still going to lynch the black guy because he's black?
Ugh. Can you answer the question again? I was just looking at a chatter. My bad.
Can I ask the question? You want me to ask the question again?
Yes. Can you ask the question one more time?
So this racist KKK guy who hates people because they're black.
It doesn't matter though. Like we could give him that and be like, yeah, okay. That doesn't mean anything. Okay, so for instance, if I hate someone personally, let's say I was like, I hate John over here because John was a piece of shit to me and he's treated me like shit ever since I've known him. He's a backstabber and he's stolen from me and stuff, and I hate him. And then someone hits me with the rock, and then I wake up, my memory is iffy, and I see John and I don't know who he is. I don't hate him anymore. I don't understand what the point of that hypothetical is. Like, what does that prove exactly?
He gets hit in the head with a rock and he has amnesia. He forgets everything he ever learned. He doesn't even know his own name. Then he sees a black guy. Does he hate the black guy?
Yeah, we just took a racist person off the map
No.
because he's no longer. It's the same thing. So if a gay person used to bang gay people in the butt and try to have a brown tar baby from this guy, and then he gets hit in the head, and he no longer has this ideology, thus can't act on this,
Hashtag not all Johns.
and he doesn't identify as gay anymore. Guess what? He's no longer.
Gay?
Thank you.
Gay. Well, that's the gist of the debate. So, yeah, I don't know what your thoughts on it, but you know, Marte was going crazy afterward. I was a little bit like, what's going on here? Because in the after panel, it was just like everyone against Marte. And it was just like, I don't know. I think Marte was right. Racism does exist. people do hate people because of their skin color. That's what racism is. You can't deny it. You could argue it's like, well, it's because they're associating it with this, with these people. That's still racist. If you're using skin color as an identifier to associate behaviors to a group of people, that's racism. There's like no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. I'll show you a little bit of the after panel afterward. Let me see the after panel a little bit. This was like crazy. It went off the rails.
Premise 2.
And so
for
first
instance-
off, when when the colonizers came to America, it was a bunch of people that looked like each other that were fucking each other up hardcore.
Yeah.
Right?
So,
Like,
so were the Celts and the
Vikings,
Germans.
the Vikings had to marry each other so that they wouldn't fucking kill each other. All right. Their truces were giving their daughters to go fuck the other people's sons so that they wouldn't fucking kill each other. Right.
Well,
There was tribalism always, way before there was this idea of a race.
Well, I get
Okay,
that.
For us to think that like there was always this idea of like separating black, whites, Asians, that's bullshit. We would have never survived.
I
We
never
would
made
have
the
never
always
survived
argument
like
though.
that.
Well, there's
There-
obviously been.
There
never
would be
made
no
always argument
no
either.
black people, or there would be no certain
I mean,
race.
look at the Mediterranean.
Like, we
There's a
would
reason
have
why
one
everybody in the
race by
Mediterranean
now if
looks
that's
like
the way
this.
it was. If we were so if people actually focused on race, there would be an extinction. Why don't we see this?
So
Well, it's because nature favors diversity. You bring out groups in from time to time. Women are really good at this, actually. bringing in the invaders.
tribalism coincided with survival. So in order for you to survive, that's a whole different distinction when we talk about tribalism. Now, when you're talking about racism, like let's say racism didn't exist and it just became a construct. That doesn't say that it doesn't exist in 2026. Or recently, where Jim Crow South, it didn't exist. Let's say it never existed, and I could see the whole argument. But in Jim Crow South, that did happen. Selma did happen, and all these things happen. Yeah,
I'm saying there's a point in time when
in this
it became
manifestation of their
racial.
thoughts.
I would say that
Class.
those are not actually like those weren't racial forms of hostility. Those were like they were primarily something like tribalism, or there would be something like the fear of the unfamiliar. This happened a lot, right? This still happens today.
Well,
Right?
What's the difference between
Status.
tribal
This is a
hate and
thing that
racism?
we have like
Blacks
an
didn't
in-group
have
of
status
the
at a certain
guys
point
at the
because
top
they were
kind of say
black.
like fuck these plebs at the bottom. You know what I mean? Doesn't matter what color they are.
So is
Right?
ethnicity
Jay-Z,
real?
Jay-Z, I don't think he has any problems walking into any rooms with any colored
I'm not
people because that
contesting any of
motherfucker
this.
is a millionaire and respected
So-
by the world. Doesn't
So,
matter what
if we
color
could-
he is.
I'm not
If we took
contesting
Jay-Z
any
and
of
put him in
this.
Jim
It's
Crow
a
South,
status
he would have the
thing.
same power structure
Status
that we have now.
changes people's views on the black man. An
yeah.
accent will change. You have a black dude talking with an
If you
English
feel like you're
accent,
not
all
gonna
of a
get
sudden
stabbed.
people ignore what color he is. The racist man will fucking
Just
ignore
because
what
there's
color he is.
nuance,
It's all it is. That's
Just-
all that we're seeing here.
Well, no, if I see a black guy and then I hear him with an accent, like I'll be surprised. I'm like, oh shit, you're from England or something. It's like freaking what was it? The movie Club Dread. Jay, forgot how to say his last name. His character, he looks like a black Jamaican guy, but he's like a British guy. But you look at him, you think he's Jamaican or something. And so it's one of those things. It's like you hear them talk, you would just be surprised because your racial lens sees black guy and you don't expect British accent.
just because there's nuance within certain proximities when it comes to race doesn't mean that if we take Jay-Z and imbue him with all his money in Jim Crow South, doesn't mean that he would still suffer the same racial epithets or have to run. Think about it. If you had Jay-Z and the
Marquez,
KKK
there was
was
black
active,
slave owners, bro.
well, hold on. No,
There was black slave owners, and the white
was
owners
few.
didn't come over and say, "Well, you're black, so you can't own."
I'm not
any
getting it.
slaves."
I'm
I'm
gonna
not
tell you
getting
the
it that.
exception.
They got
rule.
old slaves too.
Can both be
But
true, though?
wait, hold
What
on.
do you
The
mean?
blacks owned what
Can
slave?
both be true?
There was black slave owners
Yes,
in
but
America.
can
yes,
both
No,
be
there's
true?
black
many
slave
of them
owners in
actually.
Africa.
That's not what I'm saying. Can
There's
there be
black slave owners in
racism?
Africa. That doesn't contend with the
That's
prop.
my point. Why,
But do you know?
if it was
Hold
racism,
on.
if slavery was based
Hold
off
on.
of racism, how could there be black slave owners?
Hold on.
I
Your
don't think it
argument-
was based
I'll
on
answer my
slavery
question.
alone.
How could there be?
Also, black slave owners were the exception, not the norm. It wasn't like, oh, if you think of a slave owner, it's a 50-50 chance that it's going to be a black or a white guy. Black slave owners did exist, but they weren't the norm. They were the exception.
Black slave owners were race-based.
Let me answer Speakeasy's question. So if people killed each other because of self-defense, would you call that person a murderer because the outcome is the same?
What?
Tone is getting harsh.
If somebody broke into my house and I killed them, could I not call it self-defense? How am I not called a murderer? The outcome is death.
You are
because
justified.
murder has
How am I
a
not a
specific
murderer?
Hold on.
definition,
Legally-
and self-defense has a specific definition.
Yes, it's a
Give me the
justified
specific
homicide.
definition for
the
race.
motive operandi is different. That changes everything. So if I
Can
have a
you
slave,
answer my original question now?
no, that answers your question.
No, it does
So if you
not.
have slavery,
No,
if
it
you have
doesn't.
slavery-
Marte,
doesn't
you have to
answer
let me
your
ask the question. Listen
Go ahead.
to it again. The question is, if slavery was based off of racism, how did we have black slave owners?
So I'll answer the question. If you have this outcome, because that's how I answered your question the first time. If you have an outcome of slavery, but the person said this was the motive, why doing this, why it's bad, does that change the motive behind slavery? And can you label the slavery as racism if it's racist?
I've got a better answer.
Meaning, like, if I only enslave black people because they're black, is that racist? Even though people have been enslaved because of not race before?
No, he's talking about how do you
The black
reconcile
slaves
black
were
slave
already
owners?
slaves that were fucking captured or bought. You
Yeah, but they're
understand?
not
But there was
racist.
people that had status that were also black.
They're
and
not
they
racist.
had slaves themselves too.
Because
I'm
they're
asking you,
screaming.
why
Because
didn't
they're
the
telling
white
you they're
men
not
that were
racist while doing
slaving the black man based off of race go, no, fuck you, black man. You don't get to have slaves. That's
That's
for the white
classism.
man. Why
That's
didn't that
classism.
happen?
Oh, can I have?
No,
Can
it didn't.
I
No,
Yes.
it didn't. What are you talking about?
I
No,
wrote
it
a
didn't.
book. So I wrote a book on this.
It did not happen.
I wrote a book on African tribes enslaving other African
I'm
tribes.
not talking.
They were doing
I'm
this.
talking
That's
about
classism.
no.
You guys are getting drunk.
Stop. We're talking about slavery.
I think, regardless of not whoever's right about the slavery thing. Yeah, I mean, like, I do agree. It wasn't purely based on race, but it was a big, like, they didn't go and be like, oh, we hate blacks, so therefore we're going to go buy the slaves from Africa, bring them here and enslave them. Like, obviously that's not what happened. But even if we concede them, like, yes, slavery wasn't about race. That we're talking specifically about the transatlantic slave trade. How does that still prove that racism doesn't exist, though? It doesn't.
In America, you say this is
Classism.
a racism thing. This is a racist thing.
No, I
If
didn't say
that's
slavery
the
was
case-
racism. I said there was slavery that was motivated by racism.
Native Americans had
Okay,
slaves.
can you let me ask
Yes,
the question?
they counted
Because you're not
coup.
answering what I'm
And
asking.
they were the last ones to release their
Is
slaves.
slavery, let me go back because now it seems
Louisiana.
like you're walking something back. Is slavery based off of racism? Were they racist? That's why they made black people slaves?
What are you talking about?
Yes and
Slavery has
no.
always exist absent race.
You bring up Jim Crow and everything.
I know you
Marte.
got to be able to do both.
so
You got to be
two
able to
things
answer
can be
both.
true.
Marte, this is where you're failing. Yeah, there you go.
Two things can be true. So because two things can be true, because I can have a certain class as a black man and own slaves because it happened. You can see other segments of the South where white people only own slaves because whites only. Can
And
those
then I
two
would
things
quote
exist in
the
the
Morris
reality?
Umbry Act of like 1879 or something like that. The Morris
Yeah,
Umbry
these
Act.
two things can exist in reality. You can have classism
It gave
through
black men
slavery, but then you can also
voting
have
rights
slavery through racism.
because
Yeah,
they were the slave dealers out of Charleston, North Carolina.
yeah, two things can be
You're
true.
both talking at the same time. This is hard to follow.
Well,
It
I'm
goes
saying two
all
things
the
can
way
be true.
back. It's been slavery has been a part of the human condition
Yes.
since the beginning
You
of the
guys
human
know where the
condition.
word slavery comes from?
Slavs.
The
Yes.
Slav.
What color were
I know.
they?
White.
Whitish. Sometimes
Black.
they get
Just-
brown and
Slavery isn't
Asian.
They were
racism,
always
is
black.
it?
I never
Right.
said slavery is
Right.
racist.
They were always
Based.
black.
Based.
I said slavery
Yes.
can be racist.
No.
Yeah, that's what Marte didn't say like all slavery is based on racism. He just said, yes, slavery can be based on racism, which, I mean, is that true or false? I mean, I guess if you don't believe racism exists in the first place, then of course you're going to believe it's false. But if you're not someone that believes that racism doesn't exist, if you do believe racism exists, Isn't that possible? I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, but yes, I'm absolutely. It's possible to enslave a group of people based on their race.
So
Filthy mongoloids.
Where has it ever been racist? First off, let's define race. What is race?
Can I? So I was trying to hint at
Charlie
earlier-
Kirk's definition.
I was trying to hint
That's
at this
just based
enlightenment
off
thing
skin color.
because two things
race.
happened at once, right?
So skin color is race?
Yeah, that's it. So if you deny somebody because it says whites only, is that not defined as a race by a certain subsect of people?
Well, the
So
confusion would
if
be like,
two
if
black,
there's a Puerto
if
Rican
two
guy,
black
the same-
people have a white kid, that kid's white.
There was recently
And they're
a
a
thing
different
where two
race?
white people had a
They're a
black baby.
different race.
So
There is.
there was a two white people just recently had a
That just reminds me of I was born a poor black child.
black baby, and this white woman saying it's because of my lineage. Somebody down the line was black. Nobody on the internet buys this. They think she was cheating. And
In
that's
the
what
state of
happened. So
Missouri,
it's
you're the race of your
yeah.
mother.
Yeah, but there's actually
Yeah, but if this black couple walked around with their white child, even if it's biologically both theirs, people are going to look at them and think, oh, this couple must have adopted this white child. There's no way this white child could be belong to these black parents. That's what they would think.
recorded
mama's
cases of two black people having a white baby, blonde
Yeah, I can
hair
believe that.
even. Yeah,
I
so,
can believe that, but how they're treated by people,
so are they a different race?
people can be perceived as a certain race and treated unjustly because of their color. What is that called?
I thought color is race. You
So
just
when
said
it's-
color is race. So that means if two black people have a white baby, they've had a different raced baby.
The public would perceive that.
The one race created another race is what
Why
happened.
do you think? Is there controversy behind
You're
this
asking
ordeal
me
or
a
not? Why is
question
there
to
controversy?
a question, Marte. You're asking a question to a question.
Okay, I'll answer it. The reason why there's controversy behind
No,
this issue is
did
because
they
it's
create
race.
another race? Yes or no?
No.
So race isn't color.
So when they go to
Are
school,
you guys familiar with
could
the
they possibly
Spanish
be
caste
bullied because of their
system?
color? What would that be called?
Sorry, what'd you ask?
So if this black person goes to school and they get bullied and they get called a darkie and all that, that's not racism because of a color?
No, that's tribalism.
No, it's not tribalism.
Yeah, they prefer the people that look like them, and they formed a group of friends that look like them.
So
Just
the
like if it was
KKK
some
is not racist,
if it was
they're
some
tribalist.
kid with a bunch of acne and glasses, that kid's probably getting shoved in the locker too, and it has nothing to do. He could be white, black, Asian, doesn't matter, right? It's an
So-
in-group bias. The cool kids pick on the uncool kids. The potheads pick on the popular kids. It's just how it goes, dude.
So no,
And
it's not
you know how
popularity.
it works. High school is a great example of what's actually happening. Any one
So-
of us should know that have been through high school realize what's actually happening is tribalism.
So
Has
the
nothing to
KKK
do
is
with
only
anybody's
tribalistic.
color, none of that shit.
Yeah, but you could be racism can be a form of tribalism. It's again, you could pick any sorts of things to be tribalistic about. People could divide themselves on all sorts of different things: old versus young, black versus white, rich versus poor. Like you could divide yourself based on any attribute. Okay, that doesn't mean that therefore ageism doesn't exist, classism doesn't exist. It doesn't mean that those things therefore don't exist just because they all fall under tribalism. Like even if that's true, it falls under tribalism. It's still a form of tribalism. It's just they're choosing skin color to separate themselves.
The Aryan Brotherhood only kills blacks because of tribalism, not racism.
They don't only kill blacks though.
Hey, Rowdy.
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah, that can happen, but why is it do they specifically hate blacks? Is it just because tribalism, not because of their race?
Yeah, it's a
Yes,
tribalism.
because it's a marker. It's a marker to the tribe.
For people who look like them, right? That's the whole idea of like, oh, we're gonna have only blue-eyed, blonde-haired people, and we're gonna get the
wouldn't that be
super
a certain
race,
race?
the super race. No, it's just the super preferences that you like. They
Isn't
probably
race
say they
a
want
preference?
big tits and big asses on the chicks too. And if you go down the line, they have a bunch of different preferences that have nothing to do with their skin color.
Do you believe that race actually exists?
And black chicks are the ones that usually have bigger asses, but they'd still want them on the white chicks. Isn't that funny?
Do you, Marte? Do you believe that race actually
That's
exists,
strength
or that it's
breeding.
only a concept?
and boom boom.
I think it's only a
breeding.
concept.
Yeah, that's true. Kids do pick on everyone on school. Yes, that is true. That doesn't mean that there isn't racism, though. That's my whole point, is that you could choose to, if you go, Howard Stern, I remember he used to talk about it a lot, how he went to like an all black school and he used to get bullied a lot because he was one of the only white kids there. Why? Because he was the only one of the only white kids there. So he got bullied.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
You think race is only a concept? This is where we disagree. I think race is intrinsically tied up to ethnicity.
It's
I think that's
actually
Yeah.
based on the Spanish caste system created in the mid 16th century by the Spanish. It
No,
was
but
a
we
way to
can go back
maintain
to
a
Chevrolet,
hierarchy
bro.
based on somebody's bloodlines, and they did this between the Spanish, the indigenous, and people of African descent. That's where our Western ideas of racism
without getting
comes
into the shim stuff, because that's only half true.
Well, yeah,
Ham
and what
conflict.
Well, he's half Jewish, first of all, but even if that's the case, I don't think the black people picked on him because he was Jewish. I don't think they saw him. He didn't exactly wear a yarmulke to school every day, so that's not why they picked on him. They picked on him because he wasn't black.
They didn't say purple burglar.
I don't want to get into any of that, but I want to get back to the shibboleth thing with you right quick, Russ.
Dude, but JS, this is what's irritating, though. Like, you keep making excuses instead of just saying, okay, yes, fine, I'm wrong on this. That yes, racism exists. You keep making these excuses. It wasn't because he was white, it's because he was different. How was he different, though? How was he different? His skin color is what made him different.
So you don't think that is a form of ethnic group exclusion? Maybe that people could articulate as hate, or at the very minimum disdain, because these
well,
people are known
your
for being
issue here, Deacon, is you're trying
Tribalism
to project a 16th century invention on ancient Hebrew.
No, I'm trying to look at. And I might not have the word for it, but
You're
there is a
reading backwards at
behavior.
times.
But there is a behavior that favors in group based on biology
Yeah.
throughout all time, and this biology thing that overlaps ethnicity, that overlaps culture, is prevalent. And to deny its existence.
This trench deacon guy kind of reminds me of Laszlo from What We Do in the Shadows.
Is to deny, like, if I was to drop you off in downtown Kansas City, Missouri, right now in the middle of the trap, the consequences of you being white there
be nothing.
It
So
would
Trent,
be
nothing
nothing.
for
It'd
me.
be
Trent, let me-
absolutely fucking
Trent.
nothing.
You've got tattoos on your neck, though,
Yeah,
so
but
you can
y'all
blend in with
if
that
you walk
culture.
around acting like, I
Trent.
have to look at a difference here because these people are a different color than me. And oh my
Trent,
god, if you act like that, you give off that energy.
Yeah, you'll get
people ought to
alive.
fucking slap you.
Yeah,
What are you
they'll
talking
see you
about?
alive.
Can I
It's
ask you
all
a
about the
question, Trent?
tribal and the
That's
tribal
crazy,
markers.
bro.
Yeah, because
Trent,
white people
so-
are born in those areas all the time.
I
Trench,
think
I've
speakeasies
preached in
kind
the
of be in
Northwest
bad faith here, and I'll
town.
tell you
We
why.
had
Tribalism is
drug
about group
dealers outside the
loyalty.
church trying to sell to our church congregation.
What?
The head
Definitely
pastor
not
had a
bad
pack
faith.
of gun.
Can I
mean,
explain
you
why?
can drop me off.
Okay,
there
go ahead.
anytime.
I want to
I'll
hear it.
still
Yeah,
preach the
sure.
gospel.
Fair enough.
One
fair
sec.
enough.
Let's hear why Marte thinks I'm being bad faith.
So tribalism is about group loyalty. Racism is about biological determinism and hierarchy. So conflating the two prevents this honest conversation that we have. It does distort human nature, if we think about this, and it blocks effective solutions. So if you're thinking about tribalism, we can't say that the person's a tribalist. You'll never say that in media. Therefore, you have to take the whites only off of the fountains and everything else. You would have to say, no, my tribe. There's a reason why we choose language and why we have a distinction and why we label things. Labeling is extremely important. We have to have distinctions, and why if this person goes to court because of a race-related hate crime, we can say, yeah, it's a hate crime, but we have to label this something besides hate. We have to say, okay, what does this person identify as? Okay, he's a racist.
Shouldn't be
We're
a
going to
multiplier,
segregate him
though.
from the regular population and put him in isolated confinement. Things like this, they're important. We have to have labels to things. We can't conflate racism and tribalism. I think they have two different distinctions.
There's
Hey,
another
Jeremy said
term
dumb,
you
dumb,
guys
dumb.
have heard.
Listen, we observe the exact identical behaviors when it comes to nationalism,
D.
gang warfare, fucking hooligans at a fucking soccer game. Okay, that we experience these exact identical behaviors, same
Right.
patterns, dehumanization, moral superiority, collective blame. They say, "Oh, these fucking losers, Manchester United, these fucking assholes, they're just paying off." They just put everybody in a fucking group, and justifications for their violence towards the other. All of the same patterns, but you wouldn't say
I can agree
the
with
sport hooligan is racist. You're not. You had said
Well, because
earlier
that's
the
not a
gang
race.
warfare
But my
isn't racism.
argument's not a race.
Nationalism isn't
Yeah.
racism. Class hatred isn't racism. So the whole thing is
You're proving my
My
point.
argument
No,
is
you're
that
saying
the
super
super-
hate him
at the
because
super-
of
how is this
You're
proving
saying
your
they're
argument?
It's the opposite.
It's proving mine.
No.
It's proving
Yeah, what about
it's
mechanics?
I have an argument
What
against
What are
that.
you
though.
talking
And I
about?
say
That's
that.
I have a
not
real
your
argument
You're
against
not
that.
listening
Because
to
of
me if you
race.
think that proves your argument.
Easy, I'm listening
It
to you,
does.
and I have a completely different argument. I say at the super organism level of the super ethnic group or the super phenotype of closely related groups. So I guess the super family. Super families stick together when Rome invades. Yes, there are outliers that will, be the scouts and mercenaries for Rome, but by and large, there is a unity, and we see this in several different epochs of would-be nationalist movements, whether it's a Macedonian unifying the Greek city-states under a greater idea of being Greek, or whether it's modern-day America trying to suss out its newest identity of what it means to be an American as our DNA mixes and as we become a new phenotype. I think we're still missing out on the whole Enlightenment thing, because before just a specific point where slavery is just a causality of being conquered, it becomes justified by scientific rationalism and looked at as a scientific, like, foster parent. We're actually doing these people a service because genetically they're inferior. They are the missing link between the ape and the new man, superior man. And it is our duty as the superior man to aid his reformation and guide him, even
So
if that
how
means
can you
his
say
bondage.
you don't believe in evolution, but think there's a step between an ape and a human? Like, see,
I'm not saying
just
I do. This
contradicted
was
your
the
whole
justification. It was
worldview
called
right there,
social
Trent.
Darwinism.
You literally contradicted.
No,
your
I'm not
whole
arguing.
worldview
I'm
right there.
arguing. I'm not talking.
Do you
about
believe
my
in
worldview.
evolution?
Yeah,
I'm not talking about
Do you
my
believe in
worldview.
evolution,
Am I
Trent?
talking about my worldview, or am I
Well,
talking
It
about?
sounded. I thought you were
social
giving me your
Darwinism?
argument. You said I
Yeah, I
have
thought
a
you were
different
arguing for
argument, and
racism.
you presented that.
I'm talking
Yeah.
about the
Are
social
lions
Darwinism.
racist against hyenas?
This is why
So
I'm
do-
confused by the banana
okay,
question. It's like,
so
let's talk about
let's
humans
take-
alone so I don't get lost in the sauce of like
Okay,
non-human stuff.
Well, I got
Well,
what.
okay,
Well,
let
okay,
me-
well,
can-
I had a
can I
question.
answer? Let me continue with
Hold
the
up,
question
hold
then.
up.
Well, yeah. So that was basically most of all of it. It doesn't really resolve or anything like that. But I wanted to cover that because I thought that was crazy. Like I said, I thought, like Marte, I also thought I was going crazy. I was like, no, listen, I think racism obviously exists. I understand where they're coming from, that no, it's not just the skin color. It's about what they associate with the skin color and stuff. And I'm like, well, that might be true. I would also argue that there might be some people that do hate people just because they think the skin color is ugly. That could be a thing. But regardless, even if it was just the associated with the skin color, that still doesn't deny the fact that they're choosing the skin color as the identifier and they're basing it off of that skin color. They could choose any other factors, but they're going with skin color. And if racism doesn't exist, then where does the line stop? Is there no ageism? Is there no sexism? Is there no classism? Like, is there just no isms? And if we just don't like something, if we just don't like a group of people, even if we say, yes, I don't like men, or I don't like women, I don't like old people, I don't like young people, I don't like rich people, I don't like poor people. Even if we say that, no, it must be because of some underlying factors. So where does the line? I guess that's my point. But what did you guys think? I thought this was an interesting debate, a really good debate and conversation. Either way, it's great that we're having this conversation. Also, it's good that it's happening between some smart folk here. What do you guys think? Leave a comment in the comment section down below. Subscribe to my channel. Also, make sure you check out the other videos I got on the screen that I think you'll enjoy. I don't know if Marte, I don't know if you and Emmett, I don't know if both of you guys are available to right now, but why don't we have a little quick thing right now? If you're able to. We could do a quick thing right now. I got some time. Let's go. Marte's down. Now, what about Emmett? Yes, I need like 5 minutes. All right. Well, in 5 minutes, we could do this right now. Ding, ding, ding. Yes. Let's get ready to rumble. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, did you enjoy that video? I hope you did. If you did, make sure you like and subscribe, or else you're gay. I'm sorry, I don't make the rules. I'm just trying to save you from sin. Also, make sure you catch the Cool Stream live Mondays through Fridays right here on my YouTube channel, and make sure you follow me at any of these links down below for everything Cool Vic.